Hello, and we are KD and Jasmine. Today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Christopher Nolan's films. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Batman and existentialism? But trust me, folks, we're about to uncover some pretty wild connections between Nolan's blockbuster movies and some really deep philosophical ideas. We're not just talking popcorn entertainment here. Nolan's films really grapple with some serious questions about the nature of reality, identity, morality, all that good stuff. Ready to have your mind bent a little bit?
Absolutely. And I think what's so fascinating about Nolan is that he manages to weave these complex philosophical concepts into really thrilling and captivating narratives. He doesn't spoon-feed the audience. He presents these big ideas and kind of lets us wrestle with them.
All right, let's jump right in that. I want to start with one of Nolan's early short films, Doodlebug. This thing is only 3 minutes long, but man, it packs a philosophical punch. So you got this guy in this really grimy apartment, and he's obsessively chasing this like bug-like creature. He finally smashes it and boom, turns out it's a smaller version of himself. And then get this, he's immediately crushed by an even larger version of himself. Talk about a freaky cycle.
That doodlebug scene is such a great entry point, I think, into one of Nolan's recurring themes, this idea of mimetic doubling. And, this idea of these endless cycles of pursuing and being pursued, it's actually a concept that's been explored by the philosopher René Girard, who argued that much of human behavior, particularly rivalry and conflict, stems from this kind of innate tendency to imitate the desires of others.
So it's not just about a bug, it's about human nature. We're all chasing after what other people want, and that leads to all this competition and conflict.
Precisely. And so that unsettling cycle of violence that we see in Doodlebug, it's almost like a microcosm of these larger societal struggles. And this idea of mimetic desire, it pops up again and again in Nolan's later films, from the rival magicians in The Prestige to the escalating conflict between Batman and the Joker.
This is already blowing my mind.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started. Let's move on to following Nolan's first feature film.
Yeah.
We've got this young man, kind of an aimless writer, and he becomes obsessed with this seasoned burglar named Cobb. And he starts copying Cobb's style, his mannerisms, his everything. It's like he wants to become Cobb.
That's mimetic desire in action. It's not just about wanting the same things as someone else. It's about wanting to be them. And following, I think, brilliantly illustrates the dark side of this desire. The young man's fascination with Cobb leads him down this really dangerous path.
Yeah, it's like he's so caught up in imitating Cobb that he loses himself in the process. And isn't there a sense that Cobb is kind of manipulating this, using the young man's desire for his own kind of twisted ends?
Absolutely. Cobb is this master manipulator who understands the power of mimetic desire. He sees that the young man wants what he has, wants to be who he is, and he exploits that. And so it becomes this cautionary tale about how easily our desires can be shaped and manipulated by others.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's talk about The Prestige. This film is like a magic trick itself. The layers of deception and rivalry. You got these two magicians, Borden and Angier, and they're locked in this deadly competition. And it's not just about outdoing each other with tricks. It's about this obsession, this revenge, this desire to be the best.
And their rivalry is fueled by this concept called internal mediation, another concept from Girard's theory. Essentially, their competition becomes even more intense because they're on equal footing. They're both brilliant magicians vying for the same recognition and acclaim. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing your darkest desires reflected back at you.
And didn't Nolan actually draw inspiration from the real-life rivalry between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison for this film?
He did. And just like Borden and Angier, Tesla and Edison were these brilliant minds driven by this insatiable need to kind of outshine the other, and they often resorted to these ethically questionable tactics in the process. So it's this fascinating case study of how competition can breed these doppelgangers, these mirror images locked in this battle for dominance.
So Nolan's not just making a film about magicians here. He's making a film about the dark side of human ambition, about how the desire for recognition can drive us to these extremes.
Precisely. And it's not just about ambition, I think. It's about this desire to be preferred over others, a concept that Rousseau called amour propre. It's this yearning for validation, for proving our worth, and in extreme cases, it can drive us to these harmful actions.
Wow. I'm starting to see these philosophical threads weaving through all of Nolan's films. So make me rethink everything I thought I knew about these movies. Okay, let's dive into Insomnia. We got Al Pacino playing this detective. And he's battling not only a killer, but also his own insomnia. And the setting, this Alaskan town where the sun never sets, just adds to this whole disorienting vibe.
And Nolan's choice of setting is brilliant. He places Detective Dormer, a character who's already grappling with this past moral compromise. In an environment that exacerbates his inner turmoil, that constant daylight becomes a metaphor for his inability to escape his own demons.
And then you have the murderer, Walter Finch, who brings this whole other layer of moral complexity to the film. He seems to have this kind of nihilistic view of morality, arguing that right and wrong are just social constructs. It's pretty unsettling.
Finch really embodies this concept of moral anti-realism, this belief that there are no objective moral truths. He argues that our ideas of right and wrong are subjective, even illusory. It's a direct challenge to Dormers and our own assumptions about the existence of some absolute moral compass.
It's like Nolan's forcing us to confront the darkness, not just within the characters, but within ourselves, to ask ourselves, what if there is no right answer? What if morality is truly subjective?
Exactly. He's not giving us these easy answers. He's forcing us to wrestle with these uncomfortable questions. And that's where the true power of his filmmaking lies. He's not just entertaining us, he's making us think.
Okay, I'm ready for another dose of mind-bending brilliance. Let's talk about Interstellar. This film takes us on this cosmic journey through wormholes, black holes, and the vastness of space.
Interstellar is a visual and philosophical masterpiece. It tackles this concept of the subjectivity of substance, an idea explored by Hegel. In essence, it suggests that what we perceive as solid and independent, what we call substance, is actually shaped by our knowledge and actions.
Hold on, are you saying that reality is subjective? That it's not as fixed as we think it is?
Precisely. And Interstellar plays with this idea brilliantly. At first, we're led to believe that there's this powerful alien intelligence, these others, who are responsible for the wormhole. But then, boom, Nolan hits us with this mind-blowing twist. The others are actually future humans who have evolved to the point where they can manipulate time and space.
Wait, so the future is influencing the past? Mind officially blown.
And that's where Hegel's concept of retroactive causality comes in. It suggests that actions in the present can actually change the meaning and significance of past events. Think about that scene where Cooper, the protagonist, sends a message to his past self, essentially setting in motion the very events that led him to that point.
Whoa, time travel and existential paradoxes. This is heavy stuff.
It is, but it's also incredibly thought-provoking. Nolan's not just playing with these cool sci-fi concepts. He's challenging our understanding of time causality and our role in shaping our own destinies.
Okay, one more mind-bending adventure to go before we take a break. Let's talk about Memento, a film that explores the fragility of memory and the construction of identity. We follow Leonard Shelby, a man with anterograde amnesia, who's desperately trying to piece together his wife's murder while battling his inability to form new memories.
Memento is such a brilliant exploration of memory and its impact on our sense of self. And the film's fragmented structure, presented in reverse chronological order, mirrors Leonard's own fractured memory, forcing us, the audience, to piece together the truth alongside him.
Yeah, it's like we're living inside his head, experiencing his confusion and frustration firsthand.
Exactly, and this raises these fundamental questions about the nature of personal identity. If our memories are unreliable, if they can be manipulated or even erased, then what does it mean to be the same person over time?
That's a terrifying thought. It's like our entire sense of self is built on this shaky foundation.
And Nolan takes it even further. Remember that moment when Leonard admits to deliberately lying to himself to be happy? He chooses to believe this fabricated reality, even if it's based on this false memory.
It's like he's saying, if reality is just a construct, then I'll construct a reality that I can live with, even if it's a lie.
That's the unsettling truth that Memento confronts us with. It suggests that our identities might be more fluid, more malleable than we'd like to believe, and that even in the face of this overwhelming uncertainty, we have a choice in how we construct our own narratives, our own sense of self.
Wow, that's a powerful idea. Okay, I think my brain needs a break to process all of this. We've covered a lot of ground, but we've only just scratched the surface of the philosophical depths in Nolan's films.
Yeah, we've barely begun to explore the dream-bending world of Inception. But that's a conversation for part 2 of our deep dive.
Listeners, join us for part 2, where we'll be entering the world of Inception and exploring the philosophical questions it raises about the nature of reality consciousness and the power of dreams.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the philosophy of Christopher Nolan. We just finished exploring themes of metic desire, moral ambiguity, and the malleability of memory in some of his earlier films. Now get ready to enter the dreamscapes of Inception, where reality itself becomes this fluid and often dangerous playground.
Okay, Inception is one of those movies that just messes with your head in the best way possible. I mean, the idea of planting ideas in people's minds by infiltrating their dreams, it's like mind espionage.
It's a brilliant premise that allows Nolan to explore some really age-old philosophical questions. about the nature of reality perception, the power of the subconscious. One of the core ideas I think that Inception tackles is this thing called the dream argument, a philosophical problem that's been around for centuries.
The dream argument. Okay, and intrigued, but also slightly terrified. What exactly is that?
It basically challenges our certainty about reality. Think about it. If dreams can feel so real, how do we know for sure that we're not dreaming right now? And Inception plays with that possibility, blurring the lines between dreams and waking life so effectively that we start to question everything.
Hold on, you're making me doubt my own existence here. So how do we tell the difference between a dream and reality? In the film, they use those totems, right?
Right, those personal objects with unique properties that help the dream extractors distinguish between dream levels and the real world. But even those totems can be unreliable, as we see with Cobb and his spinning top.
So even if I have like a lucky charm or something, I couldn't be 100% certain I wasn't in a dream. This is starting to feel like a rabbit hole. I'm not sure I want to go down.
That's the point. Nolan wants us to confront the limits of our perception and acknowledge that reality might not be as straightforward as we assume. He's echoing the thoughts of philosophers like Descartes, who famously said, "I think, therefore I am." But Inception shows us that even that fundamental certainty can be shaken within the realm of dreams.
Okay, let's say for a moment that we can't be certain about reality. What then? Does that mean anything goes? Do we just give up trying to understand the world?
Not necessarily. Inception doesn't offer easy answers, but it does suggest that the search for truth and meaning is still important, even within the realm of dreams. The film's central conflict revolves around Cobb's attempts to reconcile with his past, his guilt and his unresolved feelings for his deceased wife, Mal.
It's like his subconscious is waging war against him, using his own memories and emotions as weapons within those dreamscapes.
Exactly, and that's where Inception goes beyond just the philosophical exploration of reality and delves into the psychological and emotional power of dreams. They become this battleground where we confront our deepest fears, desires, and unresolved traumas.
So it's not just about figuring out what's real and what's not. It's about understanding ourselves, the hidden depths of our own minds.
Precisely, and that's one of the key takeaways, I think, from Inception. Dreams can be these incredibly powerful tools for self-discovery, for accessing these hidden parts of our psyche. But it's a double-edged sword. They can also be incredibly deceptive, leading us down these paths of delusion and self-destruction if we're not careful.
Okay, that makes sense. But I have to ask about the ending. That spinning top. Did it topple or not? Are we left in a dream or back in reality? I've been arguing about this with friends ever since I first saw the film.
The eternal question. Nolan intentionally leaves that ambiguous, inviting us to draw our own conclusions. Some argue that the top's wobble suggests a return to reality, while others believe it's all still a dream.
So, no right answer. It's like Nolan is saying, I've given you the tools, now you decide what's real.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of it. He's not trying to give us this definitive answer. He wants us to keep thinking, to keep questioning, even after the film ends.
Okay, one last thing before we move on. Inception also touches on this idea of simulated reality, which is something we're hearing a lot about these days.
It does, and it ties in nicely with the dream argument and our uncertainty about what's real. Remember that thought experiment by the philosopher Robert Nozick called the experience machine? He imagined this machine that could give you any experience you desired, completely indistinguishable from reality. And the question is, would you choose to plug in and live this simulated life? Even if it meant giving up genuine experiences, relationships, even struggles.
Wow, that's like the Matrix, but with even more existential angst.
Exactly, and Inception doesn't explicitly endorse either choice, but it does raise these ethical and existential questions. It makes us think about what truly matters in life, about the value of authenticity, and whether a simulated existence, no matter how blissful, could ever truly satisfy our deepest human needs.
Okay, now my head is really spinning. I think I need a moment to just process all these mind-blowing concepts.
I think that's a good idea. We've explored some pretty profound territory with Inception, questioning the very nature of reality and the power of our own minds.
Listeners, stick with us as we continue our deep dives in Part 3. We'll be connecting all these mind-bending ideas from Nolan's films to the real world and exploring what they mean for us, for our understanding of ourselves, and for the choices we make every day.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring the philosophical layers of Christopher Nolan's films, from mimetic desire and moral dilemmas to the very nature of reality itself. It's been a wild ride. It really has, and it's amazing how Nolan can take these complex philosophical concepts and weave them so seamlessly into these blockbuster narratives. He doesn't just entertain us, he makes us think, question, and re-examine our own perceptions of the world.
Okay, so we've unpacked all these heady ideas, but now I'm wondering, so what? What does all this mean for us, the everyday folks navigating the real world?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And I think Nolan's films, while fantastical and entertaining, offer some valuable insights into the human condition. One key takeaway for me is the power of mimetic desire. We see it play out in Following the Prestige, and even in the subtle ways Cobb's subconscious manipulates his team in Inception. It's a reminder that we are constantly influenced by the desires of others, whether we realize it or not.
It's like that saying, we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. But in Nolan's films, it's not just about who we surround ourselves with. It's about who we choose to emulate, who we allow to shape our desires and ambitions.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important point, I think. Nolan's films challenge us to be more self-aware, to examine the forces that shape our beliefs and motivations. It's easy to just go through life on autopilot, accepting the narratives we're given, whether it's by society, family, or even our own subconscious.
It's like we're all living in our own version of Memento, piecing together a reality that makes sense to us, even if it's based on incomplete or unreliable information.
Precisely. And so we need to develop those critical thinking skills, those tools for discernment to navigate the complexities of the real world. That includes being aware of our own biases, our tendencies towards self-deception, and those totems we cling to for a sense of security.
So instead of passively accepting the reality we're presented with, we need to be more active, more questioning, more willing to challenge assumptions. Like Cobb and his team in Inception, we need to become skilled at extracting the truth, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
That's a great analogy. And it's not just about uncovering hidden truths or manipulating dreams. It's about understanding the power of narrative, the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we allow others to tell us. Remember Leonard in Memento deliberately choosing to believe a fabricated reality. It's a reminder that we have a choice in how we construct our own narratives, even if it means confronting uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
It's both empowering and a little terrifying to realize how much control we actually have over shaping our own realities. And it's not about magical thinking or time travel. It's about making conscious choices about what we believe, how we interpret experiences, and the stories we create for ourselves.
And that's where the ethical dimension comes into play, I think. Nolan's films constantly challenge us to consider the consequences of our choices, both for ourselves and for others. Whether it's Dormer's moral compromises in Insomnia or the potential for manipulation and harm in Inception, we're forced to confront the ethical dilemmas inherent in our actions.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly fantastical films actually offer profound reflection on the human condition. It's not just about escapism. It's about grappling with real-world issues of identity, morality, and the choices we make every day.
And perhaps most importantly, Nolan's films encourage us to embrace ambiguity, to acknowledge that there may not be easy answers or definitive truths. The spinning top at the end of Inception, the unreliable memories in Memento, the shifting realities in Interstellar, all point to a universe that is complex, fluid, and often beyond our complete understanding.
It's like he's saying, don't be afraid to question, to explore, to embrace the mystery. The journey itself is where the true meaning lies.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a sense of wonder, of curiosity, of openness to new possibilities. Even when faced with uncertainty, even when the ground beneath us seems to shift, there's a beauty in that constant exploration, that search for meaning.
Wow, this has been an incredible deep dive. I'm feeling inspired, challenged, and maybe a little more prepared to face the complexities of the real world with a fresh perspective.
I couldn't agree more. Christopher Nolan's films are a testament to the power of storytelling and the enduring relevance of philosophical inquiry.
And listeners, we hope this deep dive has ignited your own curiosity, your own desire to engage with the world in a more thoughtful and inquisitive way. Keep asking questions, keep challenging assumptions, and keep those spinning tops spinning. Until next time, this has been The Deep Dive.